Mike, you've got a problem.
I've got a problem.
What if I have the weapon?
I guess I'm dead.
If you haven't seen it already, Mike Donvito from Scallywag has kind of talked to us about where you should be sticking your knife, what to do to like bring your weapon to bear on somebody, but bad guys sometimes have weapons too. So we're gonna talk about when I have the weapon, how you karate chop this thing out of my hand and get it away from me. Yeah, oh my God, that was just that easy. This video is sponsored by theeliteu.com, which is Mike Donvito's website, along with a guy named Jack Neville's. Now, this type of training is way outside my pay grade, so I'll let Mike tell you about the website himself a little later on in the video. Just create distance. Well, if he had a knife, maybe, but if he has a gun and he's produced it, creating distance is not really like, you can't get me, Mike.
So it's either off of the draw or before it actually gets out of the holster. So like I can put pressure directly down on this point here. Then I can start to cause pressure on things that he needs to actually use the pistol, right? So like I'll just go here and then snap this directly back, which will move his hand out of the way. And now from here, I have the ability to work in. Or as I'm here, I rotate in and start to move around, cutting in. And then for those of you that have edge weapons, cut that directly out, make sure that he starts to fall to the ground. As he hits the ground here, strip this out, and now from that point, well, his knife really isn't.
But I have a gun! But I have a gun, Mike! Real quick war story time. Can confirm, just like I said before, every time someone went to draw, I knew that what was happening. Every time they went to draw, I was able to get there first and keep that thing in the holster, or in one case it was a screwdriver in a back pocket, and then the guy was really disconnected and I was able to keep that thing, and he never got to introduce it. And then I went to hammering him. You know, literally just blunt force trauma to the brain pan until they didn't want to draw it anymore. Either they said, okay, or they couldn't draw it anymore. So that's a pretty simple way, and it's actually super hard. He gets on top. You ever get out of the pool? You know how strong you are getting out of the pool? Yeah. I'm fighting a losing battle trying to get this out like this. But let's say I go boink, and I do, right? Let's go from here, particularly when we tie up and end up on the ground. It's been my experience, Mike, and help me out in these force-on-force things. Once we start struggling over this, everyone sort of is fighting this battle, and a lot of times we'll end up falling over, right? And we get to here, something like this. How do you keep me from bringing this to bear on you?
Well, there's no protection of the slide or the muzzle itself.
Oh, wait, you taught me. Damn it. You taught me in the last video that I have to control this, right?
So if that happens, I would want a pin and then my knees going in, and I'm going to start stripping fingers directly out. So he can keep his legs wrapped, or he can have his legs directly around. I would try to keep this really, really low, and from that point, I'm going to start stripping this in. You'll also notice that any type of small joint manipulation causes that type of pulling.
And this goes counter to, like, people think create distance. If you notice what he's doing, he's actually sucking distance away so that I can't turn this thing and point it at him. I can't. There's no way. Even if I had a better position, I can't turn this back to him. There's no way. This guy weighs at least like 120 pounds, right? I can't bring this to bear on him if he's sucked away that space. And I think people get too hung up on the whole create distance. And I imagine it's the same with a knife, right? I guess we'll go with the MDV +1. I guess we'll use this knife, designed by this guy named Mike Donvito. It's actually this guy. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and knife designer. Also, you can go down in the description below. There's a course, theeliteu.com. It's online. Would you say, how would you describe it?
It's a virtual training database. Basically, everything that we could teach you is going to be directly on that. All of these principles.
Whether that's for like combatives or self-defense, if you're a soldier, law enforcement officer, private citizen wants to be able to protect themselves or use a weapon for whatever reason.
We teach you skills, and we give you the drills to enhance those skills so that you have the ability to do it.
That's a big important thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that. When we make YouTube videos, we can only show you so much of like, this is what you could do. But if they include the drills, it's actually how to learn it. Like if you go there and then do that stuff, you will get better at it. This only goes so far. This is basically to pique your interest and understand that what could be done. But so I have a knife.
So I took him down to the ground. All of a sudden, I'm trying to stay really close. My hands always want a shadow. He's doing a really good job of keeping his hands underneath mine, and now his hands will drop. And so I'm going to try to create as much pressure forward as possible. The problem with a knife, especially a design like this, is the moment it pops directly out, it's going to start causing some sort of damage and starting to cut like that. So what we want to do is, as we're in that position, I am trying to keep that directly in. If I can cause damage, I do so.
Yeah, and I'm going to show you, I guess is this invisible jiu-jitsu? They can't see what you're doing. Mattis, come in here real close. He's doing really little stuff, like this thing that you're doing with your finger here onto my thumb before I could get my grip. He's pinching here. And this, some of you might think we're getting into some like juju and woo-woo type stuff. Also, he is controlling my posture and applying pressure and doing good sound jiu-jitsu / grappling, wrestling fundamentals type stuff. But he's doing lots of little things that you can't see. This little index, like what you're doing there is very... I don't even want to grab my knife anymore, Mike. Stop.
So yeah, and then I'm driving forward into his guard. So he has a natural tendency to try to push. So what happens is, it's a knife. Yeah. So what happens is now I can start to break directly away.
Yeah, if he has a firearm, go to that. Or if he doesn't, then Mike, then you create distance.
Yes.
But what about if, I got you and you're down, and I'm trying to stump him. I didn't tell him that we were going to do this. And I am trying to knife hole you in your body parts.
Yeah, so, as he's driving it, I want to make sure that I create some sort of movement.
He's done this before.
That's a completely screwed position. The likelihood that you're getting out of that from there and he gets to start there. But understand positioning.
You see, he's doing it. This is important. We talked about this before. He's doing it immediately.
Yes.
We tend to, as martial artists, we tend to get in little habits of like conceding certain things and like being almost too relaxed in a position. Like if somebody gets me on knee on belly and we're doing jiu-jitsu for points, I tend to not feel like I don't need to address it right away. Maybe I want to just take a little breath or do something. He's drilled this to where it's immediate because you only get one chance.
Right.
Yeah. We're not going to grip fight for 15, 30 seconds. He gets one chance.
Yeah.
See, now bumping, and then I have to use that hand. And then he goes right back to that same principle of taking away space. Wait, unplug the...
You want it there? There we go.
Now you can't shoot me now. Some of this stuff will seem counterintuitive to weapon guys.
It doesn't matter whether you like shooting, knife fighting, grappling, whatever it is.
And I think MMA guys should understand that. Yeah. Like maybe you don't love boxing class, but you need to at least have a little bit of hands if you do want to get the fight to the ground. Or maybe you don't love wrestling class, but you need to know how to stand up. If you're really serious about your combative training or your self-defense training, you should understand that, so I'm not great at wrestling, but I am a really bad mamma jamma with a pistol. Maybe that's you, right? Or the opposite. You should know that, I need to have some game in those other areas. Yeah. You might never become a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but you need to have enough game in that area to get to your force multiplier to hopefully sort of equalize that thing. If it's a bigger, stronger, faster, younger, meaner, more aggressive person, you're not going to, your grappling skills might never be able to surmount that alone, but if you're adding the idea of a weapon or a force multiplier, it can be enough.
Yeah, and when you go for your tools, just make sure that you're not going to lose them. Right, so I'm not going to stop him from taking me down if he has the perfect takedown setup, but I
totally do.
He does. I've seen him. But as I'm flying through the air, my hands may go directly to my weapon so that when I land and the momentum stops, I can draw and then I can capitalize on that. I'm not going to teach counter wrestling or any type of technique where I'm going to stop a full-blown wrestling takedown. I understand you've lost that tactically. But if you were to draw that in the midair, that gun's going to go away, that pistol's flying out of your hand, or you might not be able to actually shoot a knife. But there are ways to protect your tools so that when there is an opportunity, you can draw it and use it.
So you need to have a little bit of both, or a lot of bit of both, hopefully.